Quick, what are the two most important ingredients of the Mexican kitchen? In celebration of my 9-year vegan birthday, woo, I want to share with you today some of the things that I have been eating here in Mexico as a vegan in a local family. Hello and welcome to the video. If you answered corn and chili before, you were right. These things are pretty widely known, but there are a lot of ingredients and dishes, I think, that are not that notorious in other countries outside of Mexico and especially outside of Latin America. At least I had a very distorted idea of what the Mexican cuisine was like until I came here to Mexico. If you're vegan and you want to visit Mexico or Mexico City, don't worry. It is difficult but not impossible to eat vegan here. First of all, there are a lot of vegan restaurants, especially in the touristy areas like Condesa, La Roma, and the Historic Center. But you can also find vegan things in more traditional Mexican restaurants. As we go along, I'm also going to give you some tips on what to look for if you eat out in Mexico. Before we start, I also want to point out the importance of the tortilla, which leads back to the first most important ingredient, corn, because tortillas are made with corn flour. And there are a lot of different kinds of dishes with tortillas, but also just with the dough that tortillas are also made of. And we're going to get into those. If you want to hear more about my story and my history with veganism and my view on it, please drop me a comment. I would be more than happy to talk about that. Now let's get into the food. We're starting with tacos because they are probably the first thing that comes to mind when thinking about Mexican cuisine. There are vegan tacos as is. Not all tacos have meat in them. What you want to look for is tacos de canasta. They come with beans, potatoes, sometimes also nopal, which is the cactus leaf, and it's the first ingredient that I had no idea about before I came to Mexico. I didn't know people ate that, but here it's very popular. Tacos de canasta also come with meat, but they also come without meat. It's basically there are different types of this kind of taco. Tacos normally come with the base that you want, like meat, beans, potatoes, etc. And then very classic is lemon, salsa of course, and cilantro. But basically anything that is a tortilla with filling is a taco. So at home what I normally do is buy chilorio de soya, which is, chilorio normally is a kind of meat. I'm not sure if it's pork or beef, but in this case it's soya or soy, sorry. In this case it's soy, and I buy it at Walmart. It comes pre-seasoned. You don't have anything to do except pop it in the microwave or heat it up on the stove, and it's ready to go and very delicious. Another thing that a lot of people probably know are quesadillas, and here is a little catch. Outside of Mexico City, quesadillas always come with cheese, but in Mexico City they don't have to. There are a lot of different variants, like quesadillas with champignons, with flor de calabaza, which is zucchini flower. This is another ingredient that I didn't know before that it was so popular here. In Germany, for example, I think it's considered like a delicacy, and it's hardly around, but here you can buy like zucchini flowers in bulk basically, and it's very good. There are also quesadillas with spinach, with huitlacoche, which is a kind of wood mushroom. And yeah, you can just look for those kinds of quesadillas if you are in Mexico City. Two dishes that are not made with a tortilla but with the corn flour dough are huaraches and sopes. The huaraches are made with beans inside of the dough, so you have a kind of bean paste and that is kind of put into the dough, and they are usually like oval. The name stems from sandals I don't know. And you eat them just like that. Sopes are round and you just put stuff on top instead of like folding it. Sometimes I am questioning a little bit what the difference are between the different kinds of dishes, but this is one difference. Sopes normally come with cheese, but you can always ask to leave the cheese out, so they can be completely vegan. And the next thing are burritos, which are also very widely known. They're not made with corn flour, but with a wheat tortilla, a very big wheat tortilla. They always have a base of beans, usually like mashed beans that are just spread out on the tortilla. And they can be made with meat, but as well with vegetables. If you order a burrito, it's best to ask them to leave the cheese out, so that way you're sure it's vegan. Another thing that is different between Mexico City and other states of Mexico are tlayudas. Tlayudas origin in Oaxaca. I'm not sure in what other states they are available actually. In Oaxaca they are made of a big corn tortilla that is folded 2 times. So it's like a quarter, looks like a quarter of a big tortilla. And again, it can be filled with different things like meat, cheese, but also vegetables, so you can ask them to make it vegan. In Mexico it's very different. It's a big tostada of blue corn. The tostada is basically kind of hard tortilla, and the tlayuda here comes with a base of beans, and then again there are different ingredients on top like nopal, radish, onion, cilantro, normally also cheese, but you can ask them to leave that out, and then salsa. I forgot to mention that to all of the dishes that I mentioned previously, salsa is added. There are a lot of different kinds of salsa. The most classic type has a base of tomate or jitomate. Tomate is green tomato and jitomate is red tomato. And then of course chili. There are very many different types of chili and they vary greatly in their spiciness. A good way to test if you can tolerate the spiciness is to put a little drop on your hand and lick it off. If you have the chance in a public place, obviously it's not always available, but that's a very good way to test if it's very spicy for you. I have to say though that if it's spicy like this, it's probably not as spicy on a taco. So what I always do is put just a few drops of salsa on my taco. Normally you can also add the salsa yourself, so it's not pre-added. So that's a very good way to kind of add it after your own liking. Something that we very often eat here in the family is arroz estilo mexicano, which is Mexican style rice. It's made very differently than the Asian rice or water cooked rice. First you fry the rice and then you cook it with tomato sauce. Also peas and carrots are added normally. It's very delicious on its own, but a lot of the time it is eaten with mole or other dishes. Mole is a sauce, a very thick kind of sauce that also has chile as its base, and then there are things added like other spices, seeds and nuts, and even chocolate. Mole comes in 3 different colors, green, red, and black. It can be savory or sweet. For me personally, I have to say that mole can be a little bit hard on my stomach, so you might want to be careful with that. Pozole is a soup that normally comes with meat, and I'm not sure if in public restaurants or street food businesses you can get it vegan, but if you're at home with locals, you could ask them to make it vegan for you and just cook the meat apart, for example. Pozole is made with corn, but it's a special type of corn that is very big, like the grains are like about this size, and instead of the meat you could add vegetables like mushrooms or broccoli or stuff that you like. On top usually lettuce, radishes, oregano, onion and lemon are added. Next up are tostadas with tinga. Tinga is made with carrots and onions in the vegan version. The non-vegan version is meat and onions, but I really like the vegan version. It's cooked and kind of warm, not really hot, and maybe could be a great appetizer too. Another thing that we also often eat here is Caldo de Verduras, which is vegetable broth. It's very simple. I'm not sure if it's really Mexican, but here we eat it with broccoli, carrots, and chayote. Chayote is a typical Mexican vegetable that I didn't know before. It's green and a little bit similar to a zucchini, about this size. And there are two different versions, one with kind of spikes and the other one which is smooth. And you want to peel the chayote before you cook it. You would think that sopa is soup because that's the literal translation, but here, at least in Mexico City, it's a specific kind of soup. It's tomato soup with pasta. When my boyfriend's grandma asks my boyfriend to buy sopa, she means just the pasta. This can be a little bit confusing, but basically with other kinds of soup, you have to specify which type it is, like sopa de lentejas, which is also very popular here and very delicious. It is made also with a base of tomato in the water and cilantro. Something else that's very popular for street food businesses is esquite. Esquite is corn, just grains of corn that they put in a cup, and it's cooked with chile. A lot of the time they have different types that are more spicy or less spicy, and then there are different things that they can put on top. Normally there's mayonnaise, but you can ask them to leave that out, and other things are lemon, salt, and again chili. Now for the dessert there are different options. Here in Mexico there are two types of ice cream. One is nieve and one is helado. Helado is not vegan, but nieve is. Nieve means snow, and it's a kind of sorbet that is just made of fruit. I'm not normally a big fan of sorbet, but I like this kind of ice cream because it tends to be pretty creamy, especially mango. I love mango. And also frutos rojos, which are red fruit. About the next thing, I'm not sure if you can buy it in restaurants or in street food businesses. It's Atole de Maíz. Atole normally has a base of milk and fruit or even cacao, things like that are added. But Atole de Maíz has a base of corn flour dough actually, and there are also corn grains added. Other than that, it just consists of water and piloncillo, which is a kind of sugar thing with cinnamon and other spices added. Something else that you can easily find anywhere in the city is agua, also called Agua de Sabor, and it's made with fruit and sometimes horchata. Horchata is a kind of rice drink with spices. It's very delicious on its own. You can also find that in restaurants and street food businesses, but in this case it's mixed with fruit and it's super delicious. The first time I had an agua de fresa, strawberry water, I couldn't stop drinking it, and it was a liter, so. Another drink that's very popular here is Jamaika. Jamaika is hibiscus, and it's made like tea, but then sugar is added and it's cold. So it's more like an iced tea, and it's very good. Now those are the things that we eat here for lunch usually, or when we're going out. But I want to say something about meal times and breakfast and dinner as well. Breakfast tends to be pretty late, I think. We normally eat around 9 or 10 a.m. And I always have porridge in the morning with fruit. There's amazing fruit here, obviously, like papaya, mango, bananas. Those are like the staple fruits that we have with porridge. I'm a little bit happy that my boyfriend's family now eats porridge every morning too. They usually have a little bit, and then they have something else that's left over from the day before, which is very common in Mexico. And yeah, that's the breakfast. And lunch is also pretty late, normally around 3 or 4. p.m. and then dinner is late too, again around 9 or 10 p.m. So basically right before bed, depending on when you go to bed. Sometimes people here just have tea or coffee for dinner, maybe because it's so late. I'm not a big fan of eating so late, but I have gotten used to it here, and I tend to not be hungry before that time, so I just let it roll. I'm German and I love bread, so you can quote me on that. So I normally have toast for dinner. There is no German style bread available here, so I buy whole grain toast and I add a lot of things to that. Something that I do that I call hamburger mashup is melt cheese, vegan cheese, on a piece of toast and then add ketchup, pickled cucumbers, and the burger patty is hummus in this case. Sometimes I also add peanut butter just for some extra protein, and I really like that. Maybe it sounds weird, I don't know. If I want something sweet, I'm gonna eat margarine or peanut butter with marmalade. So yeah, that was it. I hope it was helpful to you. If it was, please give this video a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Also subscribe to my channel if you haven't yet, and I will see you very soon. Thank you so much for watching.